you haven't really mentioned, I mean, how you feel. You've undergone incredible trauma. You're a Palestinian Canadian. I know that, you're a professional and this is your medical expertise, but I mean, you've undergone torture, you've been shot, and you've now seen untold horrors. What is it like for you?
You're right. I'm suffering too. However, that suffering has to come in context. When I was tortured by the Israelis and got out, I got out in 3 weeks. I was only in jail for 3 weeks. Okay. When I got out, I was part of a cohort of Palestinians. 75% of Palestinians under the age of 30 have spent time in jail. Just think about that in Israeli jail, of course. Just think about that number for a moment. That is a huge number. And that is just such a terribly unacceptable thing. And guess what? They don't have the Canadian embassy visiting them. They don't have the same rights to civil law as I do. There's because it is an apartheid regime, there's a different military trial system for Palestinians. So yes, I was tortured, but you have to remember that that torture, while they were doing it, they knew that I had a voice. They knew that there was an embassy that would come visit me. They knew that I had some power. With Palestinians, there's no such thing. The mistake that Dov Weisglass made when he designed the Gaza diet was thinking that the world was going to stop him if he tried to kill all the Palestinians through famine. And I think we shouldn't make that mistake again. We know the Palestinians are the doctors right now who are taken from Nasser this week are being tortured in ways that I can't imagine. And I was tortured. I was in Israeli jails. And when I hear these stories, I can barely imagine. I can barely imagine what they're doing. So yes, I've suffered. Sure, of course, that's true. Yes, I'm in pain. I'm in emotional pain. I'm in spiritual pain because I'm watching this killing and I'm watching the suffering. They are in pain because they are being killed. They are suffering because they are suffering, because they are actually the subjects. And so, yes, we feel a tremendous amount of empathy vicariously. That's true. It hurts. It hurts all of our souls to watch this. I think, though, the most important thing is to recognize that the Palestinians who are suffering, the Palestinians who are being tortured, they are heroes and they are steadfast. Truly, if the Palestinians had wanted to leave or to surrender, they could have done that by now. They haven't. They haven't. What they have signaled to us in so many ways, repeatedly, is that they will only accept their dignity and their rights. And if that's not on the table, then they're going to continue to fight for them. So how dare I, sitting in the comfort of my home in Canada, how dare I feel sorry for myself? How dare I think that I don't have the energy to do the things that they're doing? I'm not sacrificing what they're sacrificing. Every time I go in there, I choose to go in there. They don't choose to go in there. They don't choose to subject their families to danger. They are in danger. What they do choose is to hold their head up high, to maintain that incredible, incredible dignity that they have, and to basically lead us in solidarity and lead us in seeing what it is that we have to do.
What is the status of things like anesthesia, and basic medical supplies, saline bags? I mean, Nasser's no longer, there's no hospitals functioning. So this feels like almost a question that doesn't necessarily have a ton of teeth to it. But I guess before you were forced to leave or unable to return, what was that like in terms of medical supplies?
Yeah, so the medical supply situation is obviously poor. People might say to you that, oh, there are actually working hospitals in Gaza. There's technically the European General Hospital, and then there's a couple of, the European Gaza Hospital. There's Al Najjar, which are two hospitals that haven't been thoroughly destroyed. They are not functional in any sense of the word that you and I would say a hospital is functional. They don't have any of the equipment. They don't have enough staff. They don't have a safe way to sort of bring in and discharge patients. So your statement that there are no working hospitals in Gaza is accurate. That is true. That is correct. And it is somewhat depraved that the world, the international community is like, oh, they've destroyed 36 out of however many hospitals. No, the Israelis have now successfully destroyed every hospital. The medical system is not collapsing. The medical system is past collapse. And it is only the heroic efforts of the medical staff there that is basically reviving a long dead medical system. What about the equipment? You're asking about the equipment? Well, if you want to use a piece of equipment, I hope it doesn't need electricity because there's no electricity hardly anywhere. Hope it doesn't need batteries because they are literally banned by the Israelis from entering. I hope it doesn't need, just like you said, sort of the equipment. Right now, there is some medical equipment going in. It's going in a very disorganized and irregular way. Anybody who gets in is able to smuggle a little bit of medical gear, is doing so, and that is happening. There are people who are really bravely trying to do it, and are trying to bring in the medical gear. Obviously, I won't get into the details of that, but there is some supplies coming in. It's not nearly enough, and not only that, it's not making it where it needs to go. There is no contact between the south of Gaza and the north of Gaza, and so the main hospitals, Shifa, there's been no contact with Shifa in I believe at this point it's weeks. So really, you can't get any equipment up there. What does that make you as a doctor if you can't do anything for the patient? What does that mean when you can't even wash because there isn't clean water? There is no successful medical system there. However, the health situation always depends on what we call the determinants of health. And so from the get-go, I as a doctor cannot function if my patients don't come in with a chance at survival. That is to say, they're drinking clean water, they're eating some food. If they come in starving and in a famine type situation, which they are, then that means that almost any treatment, even if it was the top treatment, will not succeed or may not succeed. So we're talking again about a thorough collapse from top to bottom. You'd asked about the definition of genocide. Well, this is an implication of genocide. When there's genocide going on, you receive patients who should be survivable if they just had a little bit more body fat, who would be able to make it through if they had just a little bit more on them. Babies, for example, are dying because their mothers are malnourished and so they can't produce breast milk. So back to that question, we look at places like Nasser, which we're kind of talking about today, and these other places. Nasser obviously has no medical equipment, but again, it's microcosmic. It's a small example of what the rest of Gaza looks like. No equipment, dedicated, brave, courageous doctors doing their best, and patients who are dying when they shouldn't, while we all watch and do very close to nothing.
What is your message, Dr. Loubani, to Canadian leaders? I mean, thankfully, Canada has finally joined the call for a ceasefire. The United States, still leading the charge, just yesterday vetoed for a third time a permanent ceasefire resolution with its Security Council power in the United Nations. So what would be your message broadly to Canadian and then Western leaders in general?
I don't have much to say to them. I think that they have all proven themselves genocidal beyond any conception that I would have had. I'm grateful that the people in power are basically the closest that we can get to leftist governments, so that we don't think that this is actually a characteristic of the Republicans in the US or of the conservatives in Canada. We know that these genocidal tendencies run through the entire governmental and probably national systems. The United States supports genocide in a big way, and we can't pretend it's Trump this time. Canada supports genocide in a big way, and we can't pretend that it's Harper, the predecessor of our current prime minister. Trudeau claims to be a feminist. Trudeau claims to be on the left side of the spectrum. He's neither. He supports genocide. his government supports genocide. Canada's statement came, 135 days into this genocide? I'm reminded of something that Malcolm X said. Don't stick a knife into me 12 inches, pull it back 6 inches, and say, "Haven't we made progress?" And that's what I say to the Canadians. They get no credit from me for now, when it is clearly obvious and when their own systems of control are threatened, for now saying, "Oh, okay, actually, maybe we shouldn't support this so strongly." They're trying to save their backs, but I think what I would say to the leaders is that we will make you pay. We will make you pay. We're not going to forget that you supported genocide when election day comes. And I think our job as people in the West, we can't pick up arms and go fight with the Palestinians. It's very difficult to materially support the Palestinians. But what we can do is we can create a real cost to the government that rule over us. Because if we let the liberals in Canada or the Democrats in the United States get away with this, then the signal we're sending is that even genocide isn't going to cost you an election. So go right ahead and do what you're doing. Nothing will change for us if we allow that message to resonate with the people in power today.
Matt, did you want to add something? Can I ask? So your organization Glia does a lot of work in Gaza and in the West Bank. I saw a link to a fundraiser to help for some supplies for your organization. Can you speak about that and what else people can do if they want to help medical efforts in Gaza right now, even though, of course, as you say, it's quite difficult?
Yeah, I think we can take it as a bit of a ladder. If people can go to Gaza right now, if they're able to join delegations, there's some medical delegations going in, go. There's almost no better way that you can help than being there and doing as much as you can, both in terms of providing relief and also in terms of conveying the message about what's happening. The Palestinians are screaming for us to listen. They want to convey the message. We know that the way that the world is set up is such that the Palestinians are not permitted their narrative. That's why I'm able to speak, for example, because even though I am also Palestinian, I'm able to speak in a way that doesn't offend people in the West. If you can go to Palestine, to the Gaza Strip, and of course to the West Bank too, because it's active, go, help. You can do things, you should do things. Go if you can and your situation permits. If not, then sure, supporting through donations, supporting by allowing other people to go, covering their shifts like my colleagues do for me, is also very, very useful. And so do that. Glia is great, donate to it. Obviously, I believe in Glia. That's an organization that I've worked with for a while, one that I founded. So yes, Glia helps quite a bit. Right now, we're both making medical equipment and sending medical delegations into Gaza. So that's something that's important. There are other organizations like Medical Aid for Palestinians UK. In the US, there's lots of charitable organizations as well, like PCRF, Palestinian Children's Relief Fund, and Mecca Middle East Children's Alliance, I think it's called. PAMA, Palestinian Association, Palestinian American Medical Association is also sending delegations, as are others. So support the organizations financially. I mean, I think that's great. And then the other big way for people to support is to immerse themselves both in the movement, in understanding what solidarity means, and in conveying that to the people around them. We have to keep raising awareness. We have to make sure that what the Palestinians are trying to teach us, we are learning as we go through this journey.
Well, we'll put a link to the Glia, and honestly, send us whatever you think is useful tools, and we'll put a link to that in the description, wherever people are listening to or watching this, and at majority.fm. Dr. Tarek Loubani, I'm sure it gets a little bit trite, or perhaps, you don't want to hear it, but you are a hero, and I feel very honored to have spoken to you today. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much, Emma. I mean, that means a lot to me. Yeah, you're right. I don't want to hear that because when I really think of heroes, what I think of are the doctors like Dr. Khalid Assir and his many colleagues who we are afraid to name because they might be targeted for that. Now I think of the patients, I think of the children who somehow still are able to wear a smile despite everything that they're seeing, not despite of what's happening to them, but because they want to make sure that they continue in the resistance of life, which has always been something that Palestinians have chosen and wanted to do. So, I thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk. I thank you so much for your kind words. And I want to sort of project them out to the so many brave and heroic medical personnel who are on the ground and the Palestinians who are supporting them and everybody who's fighting hard for the dignity of Palestinians.
Thank you so much. Hope to talk soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.